world of fitness gurus, trainers, and tons of information, myself, Chrissy Sansevier, co-host Chris Marzarella, and comedian and producer of the show, Sean Malloy, break down the real and raw of a fitness-based lifestyle with plenty of tips and insights to achieve today's ultimate fitness lifestyle. Consistency, variety, and convenience all have to come together to help create this listening experience. I'm a NASM certified functional trainer and a corrective exercise specialist. I am also a licensed massage therapist in New Jersey for these past 20 years. My co-host Chris is a USAPL powerlifting coach, as well as an ACSM personal trainer and physique coach. Together, we all blend our contrasting fitness ideas and come to you with industry knowledge, integrity, and much needed humor in today's fitness normal. So welcome into your fitness lifestyle podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the Fitness Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Sansevier. I am here with my co-host, Chris Marzarella, aka
hello, everybody,
aka Frisch Mozzarella, maybe. And we're minus Sean O'Matic today. He's not here. I don't know what he's doing. He said he was babysitting or something. So we are going to get ourselves going here. On today's show, I'm really excited. We're going to talk about bodybuilding and physique preparation for basically the general population. Our guest is a professional natural bodybuilder, trainer, coach, and contest promoter, Mr. Joe Franco.
Hey, thanks guys. I appreciate you having me on and just looking forward to discussion shop with you today.
Joe has a BA in exercise physiology from Temple University. He is an ACE and ACSM personal trainer. He also promotes 3 very popular tri-state area bodybuilding competitions. Starting in 2000, Joe has trained hundreds of bodybuilders, physique athletes, bikini, and physique competitors. He is also an OCB Hall of Fame recipient.
Yeah.
Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks,
welcome
guys.
Welcome to the show, Coach.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Hey.
No, I just want to start off by saying, I mean, it's great always doing these things, and because whatever information we can put out for anyone, our goal is to educate. You know, I mean, that's basically the premise of my coaching. And I think Chris can attest to this because I don't know how many years we've known each other now.
2000.
2000. So
yes.
Over 20 years. So we've seen our ups and downs and, you know, our growths and everything. So, you know, being able to do this with Chris full circle is pretty cool. So, you know, let's get started.
It's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. So you've been you've known each other for 20 years, or you just been coaching him because he's your coach?
Yes. I sought him out back in 2000. He's quite a drive from me. He's like 75 minutes away. And he's by far one of the best people in the profession. And like I said before, I started out with him in 2000. And you know, Joe taught me so much on the side, you know, like about everything. And he's just a soft-spoken, well-mannered, he's like a Clark Kent kind of guy. But no, really, he's a good dude. He's like very few people can match up to Joe's heart. He's just a good dude.
That's awesome.
Oh, Mr.
Clark Kent. Yeah. I got, you know, not to rehash, but when I first started working with Chris about 20 years ago, that's when my personal training business I was really focusing on it. And I had a website basically before people had websites. I mean, in the late 1990s. And I was fortunate enough to reach out, or guys reaching out to me specifically in the New Jersey area that wanted to compete. And Chris would actually come down, you know, every other week or once a month. And that's how that's how we handled our prep until my business evolved into online coaching. And, you know, Chris revisited that over the last year, just because he wants to get back in the game of competing and just get in the right mindset. So yeah, our lives have evolved along with my business, where back then it was just all in personal training. It was like boom, 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 boom. But to reach people such as Chris or people across the country, I was like, all right, let's focus on this online remote type coaching. And it's worked out nice. It really has.
That's great. Where are you located exactly, Joe?
Warminster. It's in Pennsylvania, Bucks County. People may have heard of Bucks County.
Wow.
I'm not too far from New Hope and Newtown, which are more popular towns. Or Doylestown, those are the more popular areas in Bucks. Warminster's a small little area, so it's, not really known. It's the only reason why we moved here, because I grew up in one town, and my wife grew up in another. So when we bought our house, it was like in between. And it was that simple. We compromised and been here for 20 years, over 20 years. And on a personal note, that has nothing to do with anything. Our anniversary is tomorrow, and we're celebrating 20 years.
Wow.
We made it.
Happy anniversary. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Super cool. So Joe, give us, tell the listeners, give us a background. Like, what is your background story? How did you get into this?
Wow. Now I'm dating myself. 1980s, like a teenage type kid, and more so my brother, who, Chris has talked to years back. He was a bodybuilder when he was a teenager in the 80s, and just following, Arnold, Franco, Lou, and all those guys. And that's what we were like known to. And I was the kid going to the shows, helping my brother out when I was 13, 14 years old. Little did I know 20 years later, this is what my profession would be, so it's kind of funny, but that's how I got started. I mean, I was always an athlete, used weight training to help benefit, my ball playing and everything, but just fell in love with bodybuilding, seeing your body change as a teenager, and then seeing my brother compete, and he only competed a few times, but just seeing that's what caught the buzz as far as competitive bodybuilding goes. And then you fast forward, going to college, not sure what I really wanted to do. I wasn't going to be drafted by the Yankees. That was my first, love and everything. I'm joking, obviously. So then I would basically focus on my weight training, and I was in school studying to be just a phys ed teacher, because I'm still like not too sure what I wanted to do. And then I was finishing up at Bucks, which is a 2-year school. I'm like, I want to do something with exercise. And I found Temple University. They had an exercise physiology program. Just reading the curriculum just turned me on, anatomy and physiology, biomechanics, all those types of classes. I was like, wow, this is study of the body. This will be great, because I want to do something with studying with the body. Even though I was in college for it, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I did fairly well. And my first couple jobs were in the corporate wellness setting. So I was basically working, corporate wellness centers. And then I was there for about a couple of years, because I couldn't really expand, because the people that were ahead of me were just as young. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to have any growth here. Then I went to a commercial setting, which is like a real hoity-toity fancy club in Philadelphia called, no, it was a beautiful club. I mean, it really was. And I was the fitness director there. It's called the Sporting Club at the Bellevue Hotel. It's right in the middle of Philly.
Sounds fancy.
It was like the 90,000 square foot, all professional athletes went there. And it was a decent job, but that was like, again, in the early mid 90s, that's when I saw like these dudes walking around, men and women walking around, like coaching and training people. I'm like, oh, what's this? I'm like, they're actually teaching exercises. They're teaching form. They're having more of an impact on someone's life than me just scheduling fitness instructors and cleaning staff and stuff like that. So after a few months, I realized this is not for me. I'm not management. I don't want to be a manager or even run or do anything that type of nature. I wanted to be more hands-on. So I ended up getting fired, actually, because I think they've picked up on it's a true story. They picked on my disinterest pretty, after the first 6 months. And I'm like, yeah, because I wanted to become a trainer. So they fired me, and I was still young enough, of course I'm living at home, and that's like, I want to be a trainer. So I worked on a website, not knowing what I'm doing. I ended up getting a couple jobs at small gyms in the area doing personal training, built that up, built my experience level up more than anything. And then it just snowballed after a few years, maybe a good 3 years of just grinding and just, getting up early, traveling to people's homes and late nights and all that stuff that, Chris can attest to.
Oh yeah.
It just built up. And that just led me to then meeting Chris in the early 2000s. And the business again evolved to remote coaching just because of, I want to expand and really help more people. So that's really my start as far as my business goes. Similarly with the bodybuilding, again, like my first couple of years in college, I wanted to compete because, again, it was just something I wanted to try. And I did my first show at the age of 19. That was a great learning experience. And then I continued to compete in the 90s, where I just learned from every competition that I did. And I used my brother as a guide. I used Arnold Schwarzenegger's, book as a guide, and
encyclopedia.
Yeah, that was like our Bible, man. I mean, again, we didn't have the internet. We had books. We had Joe Weider books, all those books and pictures and everything. And just, that's how that started, basically.
Got it. That's an awesome story. That really, it's very like, you get like, you see certain different athletes, or you watch different movies, and like, it's those types of things I feel like when you're younger that,
Sure,
that just kind of influences you. And throughout your life, I bet you were young and you kind of knew that you wanted to do something in exercise, even when you were little.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I always thought, when I was young, always something with the body. I mean, that's true. I mean, because even when I was little, I thought I was going to be a gym teacher, or even as far as a spectrum of wanting to practice medicine, or just because I was just so fascinated with the body itself. And because I took up weight training and it, reacted quickly with my body, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And at first it's just all about the aesthetics. When you're a teenager, it's about, attracting girls and winning shows and trophies. But then when you went to school, you're like, oh shit, this is actually helping my health. And that's where it really then morphed and mushroomed into a little bit more, because realizing that basic exercise, focusing on basic diet principles can actually change someone's, health and fitness. It's just by lowering their blood pressure. Just, the simple things like that you and I may take for granted, but that is what kept me on the path of what wanted to become a personal trainer.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's some similar to my story. I started super young, and I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
Became a corrective exercise specialist, and I wanted
Oh, wow.
and I wanted to work with the older population. And most of my clients are older. They're
Okay.
plus, but there's a certain gratification from that. So
Sure, it is.
I
Yeah.
totally get it. I totally get where you're coming from. So when did you exactly start competing? Like, was it 2000?
No, it was actually 1990.
Wow.
And I'm aging myself. I was 19 years old when I did my first show. Really didn't have a clue. I mean, I had my brother's guidance. I think I had a decent physique. I was in the teenage category, and there was one other guy, and I got second. Well, it was funny because that show I did was literally like my birthday was the next day. So I just turned 19, and the guy that beat me was turning 20 the next day. And so he was a full year. This is how competitive
that's bullshit.
I'm like, yes, if the contest was a week later, I would have won. I mean, that was my first competition. It was somewhere in Jersey. I couldn't even tell you. And then I caught on to this one organization. I mean, I could just talk, just tell me to bang the, whatever, something to tell me to stop. But I found an organization that was promoting 2 bodybuilding shows a year. One was in Pennsylvania and one was in Wildwood, New Jersey at the old convention center. And I picked up on that one. And that was the one that I stuck with. Like every other year I would compete, because the next time I competed was in 1994. So I had like a 4-year break. And I saw my physique change a lot because I went from 19 to being 23. So that was like the prime years.
I was doing the math.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then it's just every couple of years I would compete. I might have done 13 total shows my entire life, because I would do a few and then take off and do a few. But it was the 90s when I really gained the momentum and then started, winning shows and, having luck and just more experience with that.
Wow. So Chris, you want to take over and question coach here?
So tell us exactly, I know what I have to do for a contest, but
Sure.
Tell us what's exactly entailed in contest preparation.
That's a loaded question.
I know.
How much time do we have? All right. So it first starts with the mindset, and it comes with the dedication. That's point blank. You have to set a goal. And one of the things that I tell anyone, because majority of my clients are first timers, and then I have people that come back with a little bit more experience, and they've been through the experience already, so they know what is entailed. The first goal is to look your best, no matter what it is. And that's what I tell them. I said, you got to focus on you. You got to shut everyone else out. This is where the whole mindset comes from.
Yep, definitely.
You want to look your best that you ever have, but you also have to be real with yourself. Is this best going to be acceptable on stage? Now, acceptable on stage can mean a lot of things. Some people think they got to win their first time out, which is not necessarily true. But acceptable on stage is like they belong. So you take, a male bodybuilder, the goals are obviously enough muscle, conditioning, posing, symmetry, all that good stuff, balance of physique. That is the first thing that I need to talk to someone about, is having that right mindset, knowing that, are we allotting enough time to build your body, to have that muscle that's needed, and then lose the body fat slowly to maintain that muscle to show it off on stage. So that is like prep 101 advice that I try to give everyone. But everyone's different. We all have different fingerprints. So people are going to respond differently. Some people have the mindset right away, they click and they can compete. They may hire me, and then in 6 months, they're doing a show already because they just nailed it. Other people could be 6 months to a year or even 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because life throws stuff at us all the time. I always say life stuff. But if you are younger, you have the advantage because you don't typically have as much life stuff going on. The older that we get, if you get past that hump of having children and they're older, you can revisit that and you'll have a little bit less life stuff. That's a trend that I've seen. Typically, again, early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, majority of competitors that want to start. And then if you're in your 30s, that's when you're really focusing on other things. And then mid 40s, I see more people coming back to the stage. But it starts with the mindset. That's really the first thing when it comes to contest prep. Now, you take that in consideration, dedication, focusing on weight training, your proper diet, consistency. So I can keep on going, but I'm sure you have something else.
On a side note, I have a client that's entering June 5th in the NTC. It's her first show.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you say to somebody that's getting a little bit of shit from a parent or a sibling? You look too skinny. You look too gaunt. Yeah. What do you say? What do you say to that person to, I guess, make them feel better or try to steer them in a different direction other than not insulting the parents or what their views are? Yeah. What do you say to that?
That's hard because I do get that a lot. I mean, I get it from especially women clients who are looking great and their husbands get jealous. Oh yeah. I mean, it's similar to what you're saying, and the husband's down on the wife or the girlfriend because they're either jealous or getting more attention.
Mm-hmm.
They might be worried, or just like what you're saying, they're like, wow, this doesn't look like you. You got it. I mean, it's kind of hard to do, but having the parents go to a competition so you can see what it's about and see that it's just not a diet competition. Introducing them to the sport somehow, that's like show other pictures of how happy someone is when they're on stage.
Right.
You gotta like remind your parents or significant other that obviously the last couple months are the hardest when it comes to prep. If you're doing it right, unfortunately, it's the most, mental mind fucks, if anything. And you gotta remind them, I'm going to be, slowly exiting out of this after my competitions. This is not going to be me forever.
Right.
It's a goal. Another thing is it's a goal. It's something that I want to do. I mean, maybe it may continue if everyone's aligned, but you got to remind them that this is something that I set out to do because not a whole bunch of other people can do it.
Right.
So it's that sort. I mean, it's really touchy. I mean, I know what you're saying. And it's usually, parents just being parents, but you got to ensure them, listen, mom or dad, I'm still eating a lot of food. I'm not doing this, maybe you got to be more in tune with what each party is doing. So they, are involved a little bit more. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's because everyone's a little bit different.
Basing on the topic of eating, I'm eating more now than 22 weeks ago when we first started again.
Sure.
And it's more frequent, but I'm eating more single ingredient foods, that kind of thing, like potatoes, rice, that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Makes it easy.
Yeah, exactly. And when my brothers see me, like they saw me a couple of days ago, you look like shit. So, so I opened my shirt. I was like, yeah, what do you think now?
No, yeah.
No, then they're like, all right, we're shutting up.
Yeah. I mean, it again, like my parents used to go to all my shows when I was younger. They were a big support system. But, I would say over the last 10 years, the few shows that I did, like my dad would stop over or whatnot. He was like, what are you doing to yourself? Are you sick or you losing weight again? Or, it's a normal concern, but they get it. They know that I eventually will exit out of this look. And I think that's what your client needs to tell the parents that, mom, dad, I'm not going to be this way, year round. It's for a certain goal to lose body fat in a healthy way. And then I'll slowly add the body fat again, So, I mean, I think that is important. She needs to tell them that this is not me forever.
Yeah, just be real with them. Just
yeah.
Tell them, it's the truth, It's hard to keep that for a year round. Can you do that year round? I mean,
no, it's not healthy. No. I mean, I've done a podcast on that alone, talking about diet exit plan and staying lean 2 year round. Because I think social media has also influenced people to be lean year round, just so they can be gramming up and taking pictures and to get more attention. But if you are a real competitor, you want that downtime in between shows so you can build your body up. Okay. Because when you compete for a show, if you're using steroids or not, you lose body fat. The goal is always to maintain as much muscle as possible. Right. I mean, that's the goal, is whatever muscle that you have, you want to maintain it while losing body fat. Okay. So that's hard. That's hard on your body. Your hormones are going to swing up and down, especially if you're a natural competitor, the hormones are going to drop more. Therefore, depending on how lean you get, like a top natural pro bodybuilder, it's going to take the same amount of months to recover. So, for example, the last time I competed, I was relatively lean the year before, just because I was trying a different approach. And I can tell you, it probably took me 6 months after my contest where I felt normal again. Okay. So there, if you were to say, Joe, you're going to compete this year, I'm like, shit, no, I can't. I need to let my body recover. I need a good year in between, if I were to even think about it, to get my maintenance back up, to feel normal again, to focus on building muscle again, being a caloric surplus and all that. But you see people that will compete, every spring, because, I promote these shows and they look the same. They're not giving their body a break, or their hormones, better yet, a break to get bigger and, just to recover. That is something that I see. And that's some people though. I mean, if you're starting off and you're competing and you're a little bit heavier but you could still be on stage, maybe you can compete a little bit more often because you have more fat reserves and you're going to get leaner and leaner. But if someone's really lean, like a top figure competitor or a women's physique competitor or a bodybuilder, I'm specifically talking about the natural ranks, you need that time off in between shows, because you're not going to be making any progress. You're just going to be beating your body up. So to your point, you need that time in between.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Absolutely.
We're going to switch gears now.
Sure.
Talk about diet. So we got a couple of questions. Do you believe in bad foods, cheat meals, cheat days?
Well, I am a fan of flexible dieting. Okay. But the reason why I'm a fan of flexible dieting, because I don't believe in, good foods over bad foods. But typically it can be abused either way. Now, there's the bad rap about flexible dieting is that people feel like, oh, I can fill in with all Oreos and all whatever ice cream. Yes, once in a while, if you want to throw something like that in to keep you sustainable to the diet, I have no issue with that. I mean, I've had women clients, and again, I don't want to be sexist, that would drink wine throughout their entire prep. They would have like a glass of wine every other night and count it as carbs, and it didn't stop them. But the caveat with flexible dieting is that you want to have a certain fiber range, because that ensures me as a coach that you are getting in good, complex, good fibrous type carbs that are just healthy for you, for digestion and all that stuff. So that's the caveat. So if someone is prescribed 200 grams of carbs, I would say typically it's usually 15 grams of fiber per every 100 grams of carbs. So it's like 15% of, every 100. So if you're taking in 200 grams of carbs, I would say, try to get 20 to 35 grams of fiber in, but you can eat whatever else you want for carbohydrates. So I know a good bunch of those carbs are going to be from fruits, vegetables, the healthier stuff that we should be eating. And if they want to fit in something else, they can. So that's my philosophy for flexible dieting. Now, the main point of flexible dieting versus a meal plan is that, again, I don't want people to be obedient to me. Anybody can follow something for 3 months, and they can be successful doing it. But when they come out of it, they're clueless because they were married to the same 3 foods or whatever for the number of months leading up to the show. So they're like, shit, what should I eat now? Obviously, they don't want to stick with chicken, broccoli, and rice, 3 times a day. And that's when you typically see the terrible rebounds. I mean, there's coaches in my area that do that. And I've gotten some of their clients because they had terrible rebounds and they were just totally in a mess with the hormones for over dieting, simplistic meals, meal planning, and then they go off the rails completely. So that's the benefit to flexible dieting, because you can throw in that glass of wine, you can throw in that slice of pizza once in a while and make it fit and not feel like you're killing yourself and still living life a little bit. Although what I do, I mean, I will be a little bro in the sense of dieting where I will have the same meals and easily countable, but I'll have more than one option. So that's my flexible dieting. For example, my normal breakfast, pre-workout meal will be a certain amount of slices of bread, broccoli, and eggs.
Broccoli in the morning?
In the morning, yeah.
That's nasty, dude.
What?
That's nasty.
Not eggs and broccoli. I mean, I like broccoli. I have it every day just because I like it. So it's, some mornings I might be rushed and I don't feel like cooking over the stove or microwaving, I'm really lazy. I'll throw a sandwich together. It'll have the same macros. I'll use the same amount of bread. I may take like turkey cold cuts and throw a bunch of romaine lettuce on there. And it's real similar to that same meal that I had.
Right.
So that's the flexible dieting that's also important, where that you don't have to stick to that same meal every morning. Okay, I'll have multiple options. And that's what I did during my prep to also keep me sane. As far as cheat meals and stuff like that, no. I mean, again, if you can make it fit, you make it fit. I am a fan of what I do call free meals. Now that could be one uncounted meal per week. And I did that for my last prep up until 4 weeks out. And that is this gives you the sanity, especially if you have family and they like to go out to dinner, where an example of a free meal would be going out, not counting that meal. So say you have 400 calories allotted for your dinner and whatever the macros are. I'm not going to go into too specifics. So you say you have 400 calories. Instead of counting the 400 calories and all the macros that fit in that meal, I'll go out to whatever restaurant, get whatever salad and throw a bunch of chicken on there and have that. Because mentally it gives me that break from counting. It's still somewhat healthy, a couple Diet Cokes, whatnot, but it gives you that mental break of like counting all the time. And I think that, and even if you're above, maybe that meal has 600 calories, but if you do it every single week, you're still consistent. So if your coach then tells you, Joe or Chris, you got to reduce your carb, you reduce it on everything else, but that free meal could stay the same because everything else is dropping. So your consistency throughout the week allows you to have that free meal. Now, a total blowout cheat meal, like a half a pizza and stuff, that can set you back.
Yeah. I've done that.
People can do that and they're like, Joe, my week was great, but then I had my cheat meal and then I'm up 5 pounds. Well, most likely it's water weight and all that. But if you take that extra 1,000 calories they had in one day and spread it out over the week, it's just going to prolong you from getting to your ultimate result of getting leaner. So anything that extreme, I'm not all about.
Sure. All right, Chrissy, it's your turn. You got some questions you'd like to ask?
Yes, I do.
Segue.
So, Joe, what's a training routine when someone comes to you and they're quote unquote over fat and they want to compete? Are they doubling up their cardio? Like, how exactly does that work?
Well, for the workouts or nutrition?
For
both?
For the workouts, for this portion of it, yeah.
Well, typically I need to learn someone's background, just like Chris may have. I have a general questionnaire. They fill it out. I'll review it. And then I'll ask them questions if I need more information. Because basically you would tell me, what your training is all about. But just say, for example, you're a total beginner. You've been going to the gym maybe 2 or 3 times a week. You'll ride the bike, take a couple of classes, mess around with the weights. Well, the first goal is to focus on frequency of training your body, because the newer that you are, the more frequent I believe you can train your body, because you're going to recover quicker because you're not lifting as much weight. So I may have someone do like a 2-day split. So it could be like a lower body day and then an upper body day, training 4 times a week. And the goal is, just like anyone else, is focusing on strength gains. Well, let me backpedal. Focusing on form. Obviously you want to be performing the exercises properly, feeling them, mind muscle connection, but building the body up. Once they evolve and someone's consistent, say training 4 times a week, doing the 2-day split, then I'll add a little bit more volume, go to a 3-day split where it could be like lower body, push pull. So it's an evolution of workouts depending on how they are progressing. That's the approach that I would take. I'm a fan of the basic exercises. If you learn how to deadlift, squat, all the basic multi-joint exercises is going to have the greatest effect on someone's body. If not injury related, people have problems. Obviously we alter. I'm not a strickler where you got to squat. No, if you have trouble squatting, you have bad posture, bad back, jump on the leg press. But the same principle applies, focusing on strength gains and being consistent. Having that notebook out, writing stuff down, that is the key to the initial progress for building your body, no matter what level you're at. So, if someone's more advanced, like if, Chris came back to me, he's like, Joe, throw me some workouts. I want to change them up. I'll give him like a 4-day split. So everything is spread out a little bit more because he can concentrate on each muscle group. He can do the secondary accessory exercises already because his body can afford to use it, versus someone new who's maybe not really weight trained. You want to teach them the basics and hold mind muscle connection. So that's really the path that I take with workouts. But I will add, because then I'll have clients that'll be, obviously I think my workouts are good, but people will say, Joe, can I try this workout? I'm like, yeah, and I'll take a look at it. I'm like, yeah, sure. As long as they're not overtraining or going too crazy or, you know, doing like 5 exercises for biceps. I'll be like, yeah, it looks good. But how about still focusing on strength? You know, some kind of progression, either if it's linear or undulating, whatever it may be. Focusing on strength with mind muscle connection is the first key to all workouts, and all workouts can be productive if you follow that. So that's how I take someone if they're a beginner.
How about cardio wise though? If they're over, like if you have somebody who's, you know,
no, that's
like some people, I feel like, again, this isn't really my field per se, this bodybuilding aspect of it. So I'm learning a lot here, but if somebody's already has that athletic body, as opposed to somebody who doesn't, who's kind of been overweight their whole life, like, I mean, are those people that, do you still say that they can compete? I mean, what's like, how does that work? I've always had that question.
Sure. I mean, anyone can compete as long as you allow yourself enough time, you have the patience and the dedication, and just allow your body to develop. Anyone can compete. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. When it comes to cardio, again, I like to ask them questions, specifically how active they may be, or maybe how not active they are. That's how I'll decide the cardio. I used to be a big fan of HIIT cardio. Okay. Like when that was popular in the early 2000s, everyone's doing HIIT, you know, on the bike, you know, going balls out. But also what I learned, to do that the right way, it's really hard on the body. So people get discouraged, you know, they get discouraged and they don't want to do it. So I've backed off, where I'm more of a fan of the slow, steady state cardio, because it's less impact on your body and you will recover faster. And if someone's not as active, yeah, they may do more cardio, but I'm not talking about bringing your heart rate up to an extreme level. It's more like neat. I call it neat cardio. Like neat, you know, is what you daily burn and all that. So it's basically jumping on a bike, pedaling at a nice pace, or walking at a nice pace, or going outside for a walk, and just increasing your cardio, just increasing your activity level, so you're burning those extra calories and it's easier on your body. First and foremost, if you're a beginner, it is all the diet. You need to develop the habits for the diet first, because you're not going to want to rely on cardio for major changes. Cardio is there to assist in the plan. It's a tool in the tool belt. I mean, I like to look at it where you have a shopping cart, right? This analogy came to my head. You have a shopping cart, it's filled up. It takes momentum to push it, okay? That's the cardio, you're pushing it. If you let go, the cart is gonna continue, right? So that means once you hit a certain goal in your body fat levels for a competitor, you don't have to do as much cardio, because you reach the level of low body fat with the cardio. And then it's just all diet. So a beginner, I will tell them to do 60 minutes a week, to answer your question. You know, nice light cardio, it could be after your workout, it could be whatever, I don't care. 60 minutes more activity doing something light. And then you can divide it up however you want. You can do 320 minutes, 230 minutes, 415, I don't care. And depending on how their body responds or not responding, you know, with the diet, you know, I'll teeter-totter between reducing, you know, calories and maybe adding another 10 minutes to your weekly cardio. And it's just a real slow process. So 60 minutes is usually the minimum if someone's not too active and really hasn't done a whole lot.
I will add that Joe does makes me do 70 minutes. And so I go outside and I walk, you know, to moderate intensity. But the other thing I like to do is a slam ball for 10 minutes or a tire flip for 10 minutes. You know, and I'm following exactly what he says, and my knees have never felt better than when I got back together with Joe.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be running anytime soon, but
no.
You know, his cardio recommendation is easier than you think, and it's very easy to follow on.
Yeah, I thought he was going to say a lot more, to be honest with you, Joe.
No. I mean, I have a bunch of clients competing now, and again, depending on the division, depending on where they're at, I may go as high as 2 hours a week, 120 minutes. But if you break, but I'm talking about light intensity. I'm not talking about sweating, through clothes, for 6 times a week doing 20 minutes, right? That's the right math. It's just burning calories. That's it. You can watch a video. I mean, that's what I did during my whole prep. It's just because if you're sitting a lot, you're not burning as much. I mean, look how, the step counters got really popular over the last few years, just focusing on activity level, but it's all relative. Now, if someone is really active, they're walking around a lot, they're not going to do as much cardio. It's that simple. It's just learning someone's history and just adding it just for a tool, to burn the fat a little bit more.
Wow. Pretty cool. Pretty interesting. I definitely learned something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to expand on that, like what I see with some coaches, the meal plan type coaches, that they'll slam clients. But see, I'm super focused on their weight training, because when someone is getting leaner and they're getting, closer and closer to competing, I'll ask them, how do you feel? How's your strength levels? How are you recovering? Because that is all part of the equation, where some people will not focus on that. They don't care how they feel, and they'll just slam the cardio, do so much. And what happens when you do so much cardio, your body gets used to it. Your body will also adapt. So with that adaptation, they think they got to do more, where conversely, sometimes if you back off from the cardio, you're allowing your body to recover, and your metabolism is not going to be in the shitter, because it's a fine line. Again, your metabolism will eventually slow down, the whole fight or flight, because it's like, shit, I'm only getting 1,000 calories in, I'm doing 3 hours of cardio a week, or, people will do an hour a day. I've heard that. And their body stops. So instead, they're like, all right, I got to eat less and I got to do more cardio. That's when the hormone problems come into play. That's when the metabolic damage comes into play, and they get the squishy look and they get sick and all that bad stuff. How to opposite that? You got to give yourself more time. Do it slower, give yourself more time, so you don't have to do anything drastic. So therefore, you're going to maintain the muscle like I talked about earlier. That's the whole goal. And then you're not going to be killing yourself.
See, interesting. I a couple of months back, actually middle of pandemic, I was talking to Chris about thinking about doing bikini, and I wanted to do that, but life got in the way. Last year and the beginning of this year, so that kind of stuff happened. When I remember him saying to me, because I do more cardio, I've always been like that. So I asked him, I was like, so how much cardio am I doing? And he was like, 3 30-minute sessions or something. I'm like,
yeah.
What?
You're expecting more. Yeah.
Like some crazy. I was like, wow. It was like this feeling of like, just, felt so good. I was like,
Sure. No, I mean, I've had people come to me that love to run, but their diet isn't on point. I'm like, you know what? Let's cut the cardio. I'm not going to tell you to stop running, but let's reduce it by a little bit, and focus on the diet, focus on the weight training a little bit more, because that's going to have a more profound effect on your physique and building it than just going and running and running and running. But I get it, because there are people that love that runner's high. They're naturally built to run, and I wouldn't take it away completely, but just control it a little bit more.
Sure. It's a different goal for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We want to switch gears. We want to talk about family. Chris is gonna hit you up on this.
All right.
Okay, so Sandy doesn't like when I compete.
Yeah.
Because I've become a miserable asshole, especially 4 to 6 weeks out.
Sure. Yeah.
How did your family handle it when you competed? And you're competing again, right?
I may this year if I can get my act together. Yeah, I'll be.
How did Marianne? Go ahead.
Yeah. Great question.
I know.
All right. So, talk about the history of me and Marianne and, whatnot, and what you and Sandy have gone through. I met Marianne in 1999. I did a show in 2000. So obviously our relationship was fresh. She thought it was cool. And then we, got married and had my daughter in 2003, and I didn't compete until 2005. So that answers part of your question. I pulled away from competition a little bit because focusing on job, business, and family life. So then I made my little comeback, and I'm doing quotes a lot. Tell me to stop. In 2005, and it wasn't too bad. And then I competed again in 2006. That's when I won my pro card for OCB.
I remember that.
And then in 2007, I competed again. It was like 3 years in a row. And I did my first pro show. That was a struggle. And she, only because it was year after year after year, we just had our second child, and she was not happy with me. This is the first time it's in public. She was to the point where, like, if you're going to keep on doing this, I don't know, because it was just, I was taking too much away from the family at the time. And I guess I wasn't mature enough to handle and to balance everything. So I didn't compete. We talked, worked things out. And then from that point, I did 2009, took 3 years off, 12, and then I competed 19, which was 7 years off. So I didn't compete for all those years, not because of relationship or anything. And I'm going to get to this in a second, Chris. It was just because I didn't have the urge to, living through clients and just, whatever. But she was more supportive because over those last 7 years, she's now has a tanning business, so she tans a lot of these shows. So she's involved. So the support was there a little bit more. Although I don't, not to sound weird, I don't want outside support. It's because bodybuilding can be a very lonely thing, right?
Yes.
It is.
Absolutely.
Especially if you are a higher level competitor or a male bodybuilder, or you've done it, you want to go to a different level. Like you said, those last 4 to 6 weeks, it is more secluded. That's where you got to dig deep. You got to remind yourself that, I'm doing everything I need to do. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm taking more naps. I'm hungry, which is par for the course for most male bodybuilders trying to exceed, to get better, unfortunately. But you got to remind yourself and also realize that she is watching you do this. So, and how you act, even though, because you probably go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. You snap quicker. I mean, because I go through it, without dieting, and when I do diet, it's amplified. You got to learn how to take pauses. And this is going to sound, not controversial, but you can't make it bigger than what it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta be like to yourself, talking to your Chris, this is a bodybuilding show. I'm trying to reach a goal, but it's not going to really change my life that much, because it's an internal goal that you're trying to do, but it changes your life because you're telling yourself that you can do better and you continue to evolve. But outside of that, is it really going to change your life or your family life? No. So you got to learn to take pauses, step back, give it more attention, and just don't be a dick. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's tough. It's tough because I went through that period years ago, and Marianne was really upset with me, and she was questioning the marriage because if you're going to do this every year, I'm not down with it. And then that hit hard with me because she's like, yeah, Joe, you don't see it because you think this is normal, and it's not normal. So it's tough. You got to learn to take pauses and just realize that other people surrounding that are close to you and that love you are going to be affected by it. So it's you gotta talk to yourself more often and say, you know what, I gotta slow down a little bit. I mean, your training, your diet's not going to change. You're going to be a machine and get everything done, but you got to learn to be like, you know what, let's go out for a walk or walk the dog, or let's go to Lowe's or get some coffee. Those little type of things to keep you grounded, really.
So, Joe, I have a real quick question. I'm
curious.
Sure. What if another couple was to ask you guys to dinner, or I don't know, I'm thinking off the top of my head, like a wine tasting or anything like that.
Sure.
Do you not go? Do you just not go, or do you go and I don't do you?
No, that's a great question.
Yeah, like how do you
Yeah.
handle that?
Years and years ago, I would avoid it, but one of my coaching philosophies is that your bodybuilding is a big part of your life, but it's not your life. You don't want to miss out on these things, the social engagements of going out. Now, I wouldn't miss anything in the world, if I were to compete coming up again, whatever celebration you make do. I mean, sometimes people bring their food, but you don't even have to do that. You can plan ahead. If you have, a wine tasting or you're going to a wedding, you just eat a little bit less. You enjoy while you're there, food and all that stuff shouldn't be your life. So it's really, again, you got to tell yourself it's the good times that matter the most, and you shouldn't miss them out just because you have this goal. You can make changes. So I wouldn't miss out on anything. If like another couple, and all right, another true story. When I was 2 weeks out from my last show, and my dad was going to a Giants game, and he's like, Joe, can you hang out with mom? Take her out to dinner. We went to an Italian restaurant, and I was 2 weeks out. So I did not bring my food. Okay. I was cursing at my kids when they're getting chicken parm and, all that stuff. But I got I got a salad with a bunch of chicken, drank some Diet Cokes, and enjoyed the company.
Yeah.
I was not going to say no to my father, and I'm not going to say no to anyone when it comes to that. So I made do, because that was like my free meal. And, I probably underate because I had, a bunch of chicken on lettuce and tomatoes and Diet Cokes. So you don't want, because again, people think they're hardcore by bringing their Tupperware food, or
no, you just look like an asshole.
Home. Yeah, you're a jerk. I mean, it's that doesn't, in 3 months after your show, who's going to give a shit?
Yeah.
It's going to prove that you're a dick. It's not worth it.
And it's an insult to the person who's hosting the party.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Life is about relationships and going and doing stuff, not, being a tough guy and packing your chicken and broccoli going to a 4-course, wedding.
Yeah, you just look like a jerk off when you pull the Tupperware out. Yeah. Chrissy, if you ask me, I just had a really blessed event. Quiet, Chrissy. So Sunday, my granddaughter just got christened. It was, yeah. So we took my family out. Sandy and I took our family out to my entire family. And my father-in-law went to a place called Cucina Calandra up in up North Jersey. Mm-hmm. And my mom says to me, she goes, "You look leaner. Are you competing?" I said, "Yeah, we'll talk about that later." She says, "Well, what are you going to eat today?" I said, "I'm with family. This is a memorable occasion.
Exactly.
I'm going to eat like a human being." So the night before and the morning of, I really didn't eat that much. I just ate enough to get me through my workout, and then I had my protein drink and no carbs afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So in the afternoon, I enjoyed my prosciutto and my bread and stuffed mushrooms and a little bit of sausage, and then I had my rigatoni bolognese, and then I had a little bit of a piece of cheesecake.
Yeah.
And when I felt I was full, I didn't keep going. I stopped.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, I just had some yogurt, and that was it.
That is the perfect, and that to me is flexible dieting. That's what we're talking about. And that's what I would tell a client, like, Joe, I'm going to this wedding. I don't want to bring my food. What should I do? Just eat a little bit less during the day, enjoy the meal, and basically the calories, don't worry about macros, but the calories will be awfully close. And now, if Chris was telling me this and he's 4 weeks out, then I'll be like, yeah,
kick me in the head
more. But what he's doing, he's building up nice momentum now. If you're 3+ months out from an event, you want to be living life, this is the approach that you would take. Exactly what he did. Yeah. And he's not gonna sabotage himself. He's keeping the momentum. He's still in the game mentally, and he's still living his life. So that's
changed man. Yeah. You're like a really changed man. Where you're just a really cool guy in front of family, and I'm trying to figure it out.
I don't know. I'm still wondering.
He doesn't want to sleep on the couch anymore.
That's very true. Okay, so let's say we have a show. My next question is, and it's happened to me. I think when I did this huge show in Teaneck, and I came in second, and I got sick Joe always told me, don't eat crazy after a show. And when I did, I got completely sick, and I gained back 8 pounds within like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then I had this blues effect. It was a mental mind fuck for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you say to somebody after a show? Like, how do you bring it back to like a more manageable state or a diet?
Well, there's actually two questions you had there. Obviously, again, talking about the flexible dieting, allowing yourself some of these foods so you don't want them as much is part of it. That's part one. And then when you talk about the blues and everything that comes with post-competition, that to me is, I think post-competition can be harder because you feel lost sometimes.
Right.
And you
Yes.
shove everything in your mouth because you felt like you miss out. Again, it goes back to flexible dieting. This is where the mental part really kicks into play, where you got to tell yourself that this competition is just one step. There's a constant evolution of getting better. Now, I'm not saying for someone not to eat more or have that, popular, post-workout meal, post-contest meal of pizza and beer or whatever it could be. And then even the next day, big breakfast, have at it, go for it. But you also want to see the future and remind yourself that I want to continue to get better. I don't want to feel lousy by eating all this food and indulging and gaining 10 pounds in a week. It's a constant evolution of just reminding yourself that this is just one step. That's hard because I don't think not many people do that. I tell my clients to do that. I'm like, yeah, your competition is just, your first goal. If you want to compete again, then we got to continue to plan. But obviously, we'll let up, we'll eat more and everything. And maybe, for the next week, you can intuitively eat as long as you don't eat like an asshole. But the point is, you need to, rein it in and have that plan even afterwards. That's a lot of people don't. They're so hyper focused on that show day and what they did and being obedient to, typical meal plan that they sabotage themselves for after the competition. That's the one thing where flexible dieting, thinking ahead, realizing that, I want to compete again in a year or 2 years. What is the best for me now? Instead of gaining all this weight and then thinking, oh, now I got to go back on a diet to lose it again. Everyone's different, everyone's going to gain weight at different rates. But you want to be responsible. You want to be responsible and you want to plan ahead. That's it. Because I've never had really the competition blues. Because I'm an eater, I look forward to it. I've had a couple times where I've blown up and all that, but I didn't care. My last competition, though, because I was more flexible and I did it over a longer period of time, I didn't blow up. It took me 3 months to put 10 more pounds back on because I was being cautious. And I not only did I reverse diet, I've reversed cardioed, where I kept the cardio in just because I was eating more. But then with each passing week, I reduced the cardio so let my body to return to normal with the hormones as fast as possible. So it's really planning ahead. That's the simplest. It's hard. It's hard. Post-competition planning, I think, is harder sometimes, and people lose sight of that or don't even think of it until it's too late.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Is there any type of individual who shouldn't compete because of either eating disorders or psychological issues?
Yeah.
And what if they come to you and they say, I want to compete? What do you say to them?
Well, I put the competition off, because again, I try to learn as much history as possible and hopefully they're honest. Not all the time they're honest.
Right. Yeah.
I've had a number of clients who will be with me just for maybe a month or two, and they get so caught up, counting, and it drives them crazy, increases their anxiety. They might have psychological issues, and they're like, Joe, I can't do this anymore because I'm starting to revert back to my old ways. And then I'm like, I understand, I'm not going to fight that because I'm not a doctor on that essence, but I'll tell them, do what's most comfortable for you. I'm always here for you. Now, I've had clients that were, upfront with me and they're in a better place. And again, we let things proceed naturally where I'm not going to force a competition on them because I want to learn their metabolism. I want to see how much food we can take in first. and then just do it really slow to see how their body responds, and be more specifically paying attention, to their actions as far as, or their responses to my questions about how's the diet treating you, or are you thinking about food too much, or, things like that. But I've never said no, but I do have 2 clients that are recovering, not bulimics, but they've had anorexia, and they both eat a lot of food now. They're recovered, and they use bodybuilding, because I think we all have, if we're doing this, we all have some sort of body dysmorphia. It's true. I mean, we're not happy with the way we look.
I agree.
I still think I looked the same when I was 19.
Me too.
Even at my peak years of competing, 10 years ago, where I was at my best, I'm like, I don't know, I don't see any difference, Yeah, it's true. That's the body dysmorphia, but other people have it elevated levels where they need to be cautious and careful. And then, as a coach, I'm not going to push them if they're not feeling it. I'll be like, listen, if you need to talk to someone, please do. Keep me posted. I want to know how things are going. But I never said no, but I do have a couple, although they are exceptionally, and they're in a great place. They're not low calories, and they eat a lot, and they listen. I mean, they do things anal. I mean, they're to the T, because I think they need to rely on it a little bit more. But nothing to the point where it becomes dangerous, or, they're lying to me.
That's understandable.
Yeah. It's difficult, Chris. I mean, it's a hard thing to answer, really. I mean, it's
a case by case difference.
It's a case by case, and you need to learn what they're all about beforehand. And hopefully they're honest, because they may be fearful of being truthful, to you, because you may not take them on, that's a possibility.
Yeah, we're running out of time. So, Judge, real quick, I wanted to know if you can offer 1 or 2 important tips for anyone starting a contest diet. What would those 2 tips be? What would they be?
Again, it depends on the level of the competitor, but, consistency is super important. Giving yourself enough time, having the patience, allowing the body to develop the way that your body develops. And then, more importantly, don't compare yourself to anyone else. I mean, I think that is like my generation that first started competing. Again, social media didn't exist. I used a mirror. That was the way I compared. Now people will be like, Joe, why don't I look like him or her? And I'm like, well, because we have different fingerprints. We have no idea how long they've been weight training. You don't know their genetics, all that stuff. So that, to me, could be number 1. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. This is you. It's you versus you. Have the patience, find a trusting coach, and just go with the flow and enjoy the process, because you're changing your body to a point where you've never been before, and you will get there. As long as you're consistent and you're dedicated to the whole process, you're going to reach it. So that's the bottom line as far as, first time advice, and best advice, in my opinion.
I love that advice. I wasn't expecting that, and I respect that answer completely, because I think a lot of people need to hear that. A lot of people do compare themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like as you get older, you don't do that as much.
Oh, no, you don't care as much. Yeah.
But I think of back when I was, 20, 30s or whatever. I mean, I remember I was in great shape, and I would compare myself to everybody who was in the gym, and it's just nerve-wracking.
Sure. Yeah.
It's very nerve-wracking. I think that's very important for the listeners to hear.
Yeah. You got to embrace it as your journey, and doing it for the right reasons, not just to get likes on Instagram. I mean, people do that. And I have an 18-year-old daughter who's taken up weight training. She loves it. She's eating healthy.
Oh, wow.
She's doing everything great.
That's great.
She's just, and I see her sometimes like, well, Dad, I'm like, Angelina, I mean, she's 25 years old. She's been weight training much longer. I mean, don't worry about what anyone else has done, because this is fresh to you. Be excited to what you can do rather than what anyone else can do. And even at our age, I still get excited. I mean, it's a curve. I'm on the downswing of the curve now, but I'm still moving in the right direction, I hope. That's what motivates me to working out, because I constantly want to get better.
Right.
I want to get better. I don't care what people think, what I look like or anything. That's why it's you versus you.
Yeah. This has been awesome. Really. Joe, where can our listeners reach you? We'll have this in the show notes also.
Sure. I have a website, teamfrancobodybuilding.com. I'm on Facebook as my name, Joe Franco, Instagram, teamfrancobodybuilding.com. And I always end my podcast. It's best to get in touch with me. You can always email me and I can give it out. fitfranco@verizon.net is the best way to get in touch with me if any questions, concerns, or learning more, or just bounce anything off of me.
Awesome. Great. We'll have that information in the show notes. Joe, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, my pleasure, guys.
I learned so much. Really.
Absolute honor for me to have my coach on here too.
Oh, no. Yes. My pleasure, Chris.
Yes. I thought that was awesome. That's why I wanted you to ask him all the questions.
Oh, yeah.
That put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, so much for tuning into this episode. You can reach us at lifebalancenation.com and marzarellafitness.com, and we will see you on the flip side. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Okay.